When analysing all the financial information of an organisation, it can be quite time consuming, particularly if you're not quite sure what you're looking for. But with AI, you can analyse vast amounts of financial information really quickly and produce key metrics and analyse those metrics based on previous year's performances, based on competitors' performances, all at the touch of a button. So keep watching for some guidance on how to use AI to analyze financial metrics.
A key part of any assessment of an organization when reviewing its annual reports is reviewing its financial statements. And you can see on the screen here that I've got Sainsbury's balance sheet. I've got the 2024 and the 2023 years statement, and also the year-on-year change. And on GPT, I've already taken a look at an overview of the financial position of the organization. And we did that very, very quickly, very easily using GPT. But these are more high-level figures rather than perhaps actually looking at the metrics and properly analyzing the performance of the organization. Just looking at that revenue had increased, indicating moderate growth. Well, lots of things can lead to moderate growth. It could be that you just had a particularly good year, or last year was a particularly bad year. It doesn't necessarily mean too much. But what we can do is we can actually ask GPT to calculate multiple financial metrics for us, where it will calculate those metrics, knowing how to calculate them, but also referring back to the rest of the financial statements, referring back to this document here, referring to the actual annual report, which has more qualitative information as well as the numbers. And we can ask it to then compare them side by side each year and to draw some conclusions as to what the changes in those metrics means, and also why there may have been changes. So I'm just going to paste in a few metrics for the organization here. So I've got a few ones such as the profit margins, return on equity, return on assets, the ratio, the earnings per share, which is going to then calculate those for us and also describe them, what they mean for the organization, and why there might be a change year on year. So we ask it to do that. And you can imagine if you were creating a report on Sainsbury's and analysing the annual report, that it's likely you would include this as well. So in the past, you may of course needed to have extracted the figures yourself, gone into it, calculated them. Not saying you can't do that. These are all fairly standard calculations that you probably will have learned, particularly anyone who's an accountant or a consultant will probably have learned how to do these long ago. But of course, if we can get something to basically create all of that for us, how much time will that save us? How much we've analysed Sainsbury's financial position already, and how quickly we can analyse the position further. So that's just loading now, and we'll give it a minute because, to be fair, it is looking through a 200-page report and calculating 10 different metrics and analysing why those metrics are what they are, the results of those metrics are what they are. And we can see it has calculated those for us. We can download that as a table. And we can just ask it to explain what these mean. And why might they be different year on year based on Sainsbury's report. And not only is it calculating the figures for each year, calculating the difference between them, it's interpreting it, it's telling us what the possible causes for the increase or the decrease might be. This, of course, is then going to help from a decision-making perspective. If you were, say, analysing a company that you were working with, if you were a consultant or an accountant working with them. And once this has finished producing, we can ask it to export this as well so that we can put it into a document so that we've got the information, we can put it into a nice table to present it. So put the metrics and explanation into a document and include visual aids. That way it will start putting together visual accompaniments to that as well. And you can see it's actually now typing out a report for us. And just on a note, when GPT puts it into this separate screen there, it's because it's, rather than answering it in the chat, it's answering it in Canvas. So this is more of an actual formatted reporting tool. So you can export this far more easily than you could with the chat. The chat, you're just copying and pasting some text out, whereas this has formatted it into a document for us. And we can now add to this report if we wish. We can copy out it, we can export out of it, we can make specific edits to it by virtue of it being in Canva. And whilst we can see that these visual aids here haven't actually appeared in the table, they have appeared over here. So we can switch back to the chat where we can see these tables. So we've got our profit margin comparison for year on year. We can turn on the smart graph there to see the specifics of each one. So a very useful tool to use to quite quickly extract lots of key information, and not just extract that information, but then analyze and interpret this, suggest the possible causes for this decrease or the increase. We could then go back into it and suggest or recommend ways in which perhaps we could mitigate these potential causes for the decrease, or we could build on the potential causes of the increase, and so on, and make recommendations and suggestions going forward. So if you were doing this about a company that you were working with or analysing for whatever reason, you would be able to use this tool to thoroughly analyse and interpret the reports and the financial statements and metrics, and why those metrics have changed, and some reasons for it, and how you can improve it in the future.